whether it's the Astros sign stealing, whether it's the Dodgers, trash talking against you, whether it's, Francisco Lindor, accusing you of whistling and you want to put him back in his place. They just never back themselves up. And that's it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hitting for the Cycle, episode 72. I'm your host, Ben Kruse, alongside, my co-host, Ryan Touhey. Ryan, before we get started, I just want to wish your father a happy Father's Day and all the dads that are out there. Just an absolute great day to celebrate. And baseball is a big sport specifically for a lot of dads, so I think it's just even more special that I want to just have a quick overall shout out to those dads that are out there and hopefully get a chance to watch some baseball today or play some golf or do anything specifically fun out there. So I know that I'm going to a barbecue, I think, later at my country club. So Ryan, hopefully you have a great Father's Day today, wherever you're going to be doing a celebration for that.
Thank you very much. Happy Father's Day to your father as well. And to all of our listeners and viewers who tune into us, happy Father's Day to anybody who is a father, or happy Father's Day to any listeners' father. Really appreciate everything everybody's fathers does for one another. So we definitely don't take it for granted, and none of us would be who we are today without them.
For sure, yeah. And obviously, before we get into our main overall show, make sure to follow us on all of our socials. Starting down here, as usual, Hitting for the Cycle, HSTTC, ETB on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network. Make sure to subscribe to Empty the Bench Network Podcast Network on YouTube. Also follow Ryan Touhey at R2E, R97 right down here. And then also follow Ben Kruse at Ben Kruse144. Also, you guys can follow us Hitting for the Cycle at HFTCETB. You also can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/ETB Network. And then if you guys are on the go somewhere, if you're out and about today on Father's Day, and you obviously want to hear us specifically within the next couple of days for this week's episode, listen to us at Hitting for the Cycle, wherever you guys may get your podcasts. Hitting for the Cycle, as usual, is presented by our good friends over at Playback. Stay tuned later on for the show. Okay. Ryan. So, the last time we spoke, we took a week off last week because, of course, of our busy schedule. So, it's great to be back, by the way. Hopefully, you're doing well yourself. Outside of Father's Day. I just wish that the weather would be a lot better and cooperating.
It's been awful. It's been so bad and rainy. It's like rained every other day for the past week. It's been so annoying. I just want some sun. Come on, summer's right around the corner. I don't want the summer to be a washout. So yeah.
I know. No, I was at work yesterday, and I work outside typically, and it felt like I needed a jacket. And it's June. It did not feel specifically like we're in the right month, but I don't know. That's typical New England weather, at least for me. It just is very unpredictable. But what's not unpredictable specifically is getting the chance to see you, which was a whole lot of fun. Me, you, Dom, John, Hank, the whole entire game. And obviously, before we get started into talking about the Red Sox Yankee Part 2 from this weekend, I just want to say, Ryan, it was a hell of a lot of fun to see you once again, my friend. Obviously, unfortunately, we lost, but just seeing you and seeing everybody, especially after a long day at work, it just really made my day. So, really great to see you again, my friend.
Yeah, it was great seeing you too. We had a lot of fun. Sat up way up in the nosebleeds. I think we were the second to last section of the entire stadium, but it was a good time. Yankees won the game, which was very good, and we definitely deserved that one because we got screwed out of a win last year thanks to Clay Holmes. So it was a little bit of redemption for us. But we're going to get into that game and all the other games that the Yankees and the Red Sox have played in, because this series, besides that game, it's been pretty much dominated by the Red Sox.
That figures, right?
Yeah,
I
I'll
went
tell
to
you.
one of the games that we lost, and then the rest of them, they said, "Get out of our stadium, and we'll do the rest of the work." So we didn't really get the chance to talk about the last week's series, so I'll quickly kind of recap it before we get into this one. And Red Sox Ryan were 5 games under 500 about 10 days. Well, now it's what, June 15th. It was about like 10 days ago that they were 5 games under 500, and it looked like the Jared Duran talks, the Ross Chapman talks, Walker Buehler, everybody specifically was just like Boston is just starting to fall apart, and including myself. Heck, if 5 games under 500, I was when I was at the game with you. I mean, the first 2 innings, Walker Buehler just getting absolutely rocked. I'm like, I've been seeing this for now weeks with all the starting pitching. It's like it just doesn't seem like it's getting any better, right? And then Crochet, obviously your ace, going back on the bump on that Saturday game. He was able to give us 6 innings. He did give up 4 or 5 runs. Obviously, not an ideal game by Crochet, but he also didn't get help with a ground ball that DJ LeMahieu had that went under Christian Campbell's glove that ended resulted into 2 runs there. So it was kind of a little off skew, I guess you can say, in terms of people were making out to make this Crochet start a really bad start, but he had 9 strikeouts. He won 6 games with 9 strikeouts, a lot better of an outing than what the Stars were given beforehand. So it's like you can kind of take anything as a win for that. And Yarborough, the game that he pitched at Fenway, which we'll talk about momentarily, he pitched a lot better against us. But typically we hit him really well, and the Red Sox and Yankee Stadium against Yarborough hit him pretty well. Romy Gonzalez hit a homer, which was great. I mean, the Yankees, good credit to the bats. The Yankees bats did not give up. They didn't give up a lot in the Bronx series, despite us winning that series, which was kind of a little bit of a turning point, I guess, in a way, in terms of where we are currently as of right now. But that Saturday game, we just needed to get a win. We really just had to find a way to get back on track after that, Ryan, after being 5 games under 500. And then you go to the Sunday game, and it's like, well, the Saturday game doesn't really mean much unless you win the Sunday game. And Hunter Dobbins, who, of course, talked about the Yankees, Ryan. Of course, we could talk about the Dobbins stuff if you really wanted to, but basically he said that, every team out there I'd pitch for, but if you asked me to pitch for the Yankees, I'd send him to retire. First of all, my friend, you're a legend for that. I know that obviously this is me being biased as a Red Sox fan, but that's just a hard quote for me to say. I know that there's a lot of Yankee fans at work saying, "Why did he say that? Like, well, you're making a fool out of yourself." It's like, listen, like, it's not that deep type of a quote. It's what it is. I mean, heck, if he got pitch to pitch for the Yankees, he'd probably sacrifice to do it, even though he probably didn't want to. But he pitched well. I mean, he obviously gave the turn homer to Judge in the first inning. The Red Sox were down 2-0, and then he went 5-6 runs. So you really can't blame him much longer. And then the Red Sox were able to hit this past weekend. Even the game that they lost, Ryan, the game we were at, they were fine. They were down, I think, 6-7 runs. And for some odd reason, the Red Sox bats were just starting to kind of chip away. And then I look at you, I look at Tom, and I say, this is a 3-run game in the 7th inning. And it was a blowout to start. So it's like the bats were continuously just chipping away. And that's a good thing to see, because we haven't really seen that for the Red Sox a lot so far in the series, and in the season, in which if the bats would go cold, then the pitcher would go cold. If the pitcher would go cold, then the bats would be awake. But it was kind of back and forth per se. So they weren't just getting that overall balance. The Sunday game obviously came around after being down 2-0. The Red Sox bats were able to respond. Trevor Story. I was on Trevor Story's head, Ryan, when we were talking at Yankee Stadium, by the way. I was calling him the Red Sox DJ LeMahieu. But also, I'll take it as a buck. Trevor Story specifically has played a lot better baseball. It's just specifically, can I see this consistency with Trevor Story? Because he goes through stretches of this as like, I want to believe. Right? And then there's obviously the stretches of like, he should not be out there at the plate and not be in the field. So it was really good to see. Abraham Toro has just been a Red Sox legend. I don't know how that happened, but he's now turned into the new Red Sox Dominic Smith from last year. In the absence of Tristan Casas, he's been really, really good for the Red Sox. and he's doing really well from both the left side and the right side at the plate too, which I think is a massive bonus. Romy Gonzalez, another guy specifically, came out the injury list and has really done a lot of good things for the team. And then Robert Stock, Ryan. I mean, this guy has. I'm so thankful that he's off this team right now because the Red Sox, I believe, are up 11-4 in the ninth. I think in the Sunday game, he gave a 2-run homer to Judge, his second homer of the game, and we had to bring Chapman in. It's like, that was the last thing we needed to have because Chapman was already working a lot. I mean, thankfully he got the save. He was able to strike out Volpe. And the Red Sox took 2 out of 3. I mean, this was obviously a series that I was kind of surprised about. I mean, the Yankees coming in, we were talking about, I think we're the much better team. I think you said 2 out of 3, Ryan, if not mistaken, in terms of you picking the overall series. But thankfully it went our way. And before we get into this, obviously, the series in which it concludes in Game 3 today over at Fenway, the Red Sox had a big 2 out of 3 series win. And obviously it's rode the momentum until now, and we'll obviously talk about it momentarily.
Yeah, once again, another prediction of mine for our series goes the opposite way that I think it does. I remember when we were talking about these two teams when they were playing each other for the first time last year, going into that first series at Fenway Park, saying I thought how the Yankees would take 2 out of 3. The Red Sox end up taking 2 out of 3. And really, if you think about it, this is kind of a similar scenario here, and the Red Sox are kind of using this as kind of momentum builders for themselves. I told you a couple of weeks ago before the series at Yankee Stadium started, that series against the Yankees, it's kind of like the last chance for the Red Sox to really start to find their footing. If they were to lose that series, I think they would be in an entirely different predicament here, where they're at now in the standings, compared to what could have been. They lost that series to the Yankees. I think they would have been toast. I don't think they would have been. I think their season probably would have been finished, honestly. So I said, what else do you need? You're playing. What else kind of motivation do you need? You're playing your most hated rival. This is on their soil. If you're looking to turn your season around, this is it. You either do it this weekend or you're done. And to the Red Sox credit, they took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. And like you said, their bats came alive, and they were just pesky all weekend long. And like you mentioned in that game we went to on Friday, June 6th, the Yankees right away were just smacking Walker Buehler around, a little payback for Buehler closing out the World Series against us. But then even after a 7-0 lead, the Red Sox chipped away. I mean, Will Warren started out strong, but then he completely hit the wall in the 6th inning. He started walking everybody, and eventually the Yankees had to go to the bullpen. And the bullpen was pretty shaky. Brent Hedrick was not good. He gave up a bomb to, of all people, Rafael Devers. What else is new? Water is wet. Devers continues to torment the Yankees after all of these years. No matter where the Yankees pitch him, he seems to always hit a home run, especially at Yankee Stadium. He kills the Yankees more at Yankee Stadium than he kills them at Fenway Park.
Agreed.
So,
yeah.
Hedrick was pitiful last weekend. He actually gave up 2 home runs to Devers. He gave up the home run to him in the first game and the last game, and the Yankees said sayonara, DFA'd his ass. Thank God, because he did nothing for the Yankees.
What was the corresponding move, by the way, for that? Wasn't it Efros?
Yeah, Efros. Scott frickin' Efros was actually on the team. Is actually up with the team. This guy has been a figment of my imagination ever since he got traded to the Yankees during the trade deadline in 2022. This guy is absolutely made of glass. He's barely touched the mound. He's had Tommy John surgery. He's had back surgery. He's had hamstring injuries. I mean, this guy's body hates him. It just refuses to let him pitch. And but now he's here. We will see how he does. I really have just no expectations at all for Scott Efros. I'm like, whatever. I've lost all excitement or enthusiasm for having Scott Efros on my team. I really lost all of that a long time ago. So yes, Hedrick was DFA'd and Efros took his place on the roster. But yeah, in the first game, Yankees bats were just smacking the Red Sox pitching around. Like I said, Walker Buehler got hit pretty hard. And it was mostly because of Jazz Chisholm. Chisholm had a really nice evening. He had a 3-run bomb to dead center, which I didn't even know Jazz had that kind of power. He had a 3-run home run in the bottom of the first. The Yankees put up, I think, a 5 spot in the in the bottom of the first inning of the Friday game we went to, and then they scored 2 in the second, already ahead 7-0. Like I said, the Red Sox chipped away. It eventually became, I think, like a 7-4 game, and then I think it became 9-4, and then the Red Sox made it 9-6, and that was the final score of Game 1, 9-6 Yankees. Game 2, like you mentioned, Garrett Crochet was on the mound against Ryan Yarbrough. It was probably Crochet's worst start of the season in terms of like the quality. I mean, he got the win, but that was because the Red Sox bats just killed Ryan Yarbrough, who just easily Ryan Yarbrough's worst start as a Yankee. Yarbrough had nothing. He was just giving up hit after hit after hit. Red Sox took the second game, I believe, 11-7, or no, 10-7, I think it was in Game 2. And then in the finale, it was Carlos Rodon on the mound for the Yankees. I forgot who was the starter for the Red Sox in the final game at Yankee Stadium. Oh, it was Dobbins. One day, the same day he said he would never pitch for the Yankees. He outpitched Carlos Rodon. Rodon was not good. Rodon only went 5 innings. He gave up 5 earned runs. He also gave up, I believe, 2 home runs, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. And Dobbins, other than a home run to Aaron Judge in the first inning, pitched pretty well. He went 5 innings, only gave up 3 earned runs. He got the win. I'm sure that felt good for him. And the Red Sox took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. It was not a good series for the Yankees. And like I said, the Red Sox definitely – you could tell, I think, throughout that series, though, especially in the final 2 games, the Red Sox played with a lot more urgency than the Yankees did. The Yankees have I don't think the Yankees really have been taking the Red Sox as seriously as they should be. It looks like they're kind of playing a little lackadaisical against them. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, especially in this series, because it seems a lot more evident this series than at Yankee Stadium. I'm not taking anything away from the Red Sox. They definitely earned that series win. But the Yankees are just playing very sloppy and without much fire in their eyes against the Red Sox this year. At least that's what I'm seeing. They just look like content almost. Like, these guys don't really belong on the same field with us, and they're making themselves look bad. I mean, the Red Sox have kind of handled the Yankees relatively with these, mostly in this series at Fenway. But yeah, I mean, Red Sox took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. The Yankees haven't lost many home series this year. So, that's pretty impressive for the Red Sox. And, like you said, they brought that momentum into their next series against Tampa at Fenway. So, the Red Sox are trying to turn their season around right now. Like I said, this was kind of the time to do it. You either do it against your hated rivals or you just fold like a cheap suit and it's on until next year. So, Red Sox definitely needed that series, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and it's one thing obviously if the series win was an outlier. It's like, okay, you won the series against the Yankees, but it was all about can you ride that momentum and string some wins together, because for a team that was under 500 consistently for a lot of the season for the last couple of weeks, if you lost that series going back at home in which you struggled at, a place that you struggled at for years now, that series win specifically, it's like, all right, cool. It's like you won the series against the Yankees, right? But the Red Sox, they lost that first game on Monday. However, they brought up somebody, which we'll talk about after this overall topic. And, they lost a tough one against the Rays the first game. Bayo did pitch well, but unfortunately, they weren't able to keep the lead. And extra innings, the call at the end was BS. It was what it is. Granted, take it. However, it didn't faze them. Lucas Giolito, next day after, but they really needed to have a win. Pitched phenomenal. One of his best games of the season. He's such a weird pitcher, Ryan, Lucas Giolito this year. Compared to like that first or second inning against the Angels, right, where it's just getting, hit hard left and right. It looked like a guy that should be DFA'd, to a guy against the Tampa Bay Rays who are coming in pretty well. The Tampa Bay Rays are right now. The Tampa Bay Rays took 2 games at Citi Field, a place specifically where the Mets have been absolutely phenomenal all season. So I think that it really just adds to how the Red Sox have really been playing recently, given how their starting pitching has been. Ryan, the starting pitching this whole entire week has been nothing short of phenomenal. It's been arguably one of the reasons why the Red Sox are where they are right now is because, and I told you this specifically too. You were talking to me specifically of how underwhelming the Red Sox pitching has been, and I agree with you for a while because it was like Garrett Crochet, and it's just like after that, it was a bunch of question marks in terms of just getting the overall consistency. And now, from Sunday's start with Hunter Dobbins at the Yankee Stadium, you had Brian Bale have a pretty good one, about 6-7 innings. Then Lucas Giolito had about 6-7 innings. Then Walker Buehler the day after had 6-7 innings, and the Red Sox were able to take the series, partly because of their starting pitching. They didn't really, smack the Rays pitching a lot in that series, but they did enough specifically in which the starting pitching was able to give them length, and they didn't have to overwork their bullpen, which was absolutely crucial to see. So now we obviously go into this series right now, Ryan, and if you want to break down the first game, and I'll break down the game from last night, let's do it.
All right, yes. So we'll talk about Friday night's game. And Friday night was a rematch of Game 2 of the series at Yankee Stadium. Garrett Crochet and Ryan Yarbrough. The game was all about Garrett Crochet. He just shoved against the Yankees. The Yankees had no answers for him, and it was not fun to watch, obviously, as a Yankee fan. It literally felt like I was watching Chris Sale in his prime pitch against the Yankees. I look at Garrett Crochet, and I just see Chris Sale. That's basically what it boils down to. I mean, he just was just carving us up. The Yankees, just had some really bad at-bats. And, the worst at-bats were by Aaron Judge. I mean, Judge has had a hard time facing Garrett Crochet this year. In the first 6 at-bats Judge has had against Crochet this year in 2025, Crochet has struck him out in all of them. And Judge really it's not often that you see Aaron Judge just completely outmatched by a pitcher. But Crochet's been an exception. He's just gotten the better of Judge. And Crochet, to his credit, I mean, yeah, I can be harsh on the Yankee players for not, delivering. But, I mean, some of these at-bats, I don't even blame Judge for not coming through because some of the precision of the location of some of these pitches by Crochet against Judge, upper strike zone, up and in, up and out. I mean, he's hitting the corners. It's ridiculous. And that's the way you got to pitch to somebody like Aaron Judge. You got to hit the corners, and Crochet does that better than a lot of pitchers. So, he just had Judge's number, and, it was frustrating, obviously, because Judge is one of the best hitters in baseball. And we're like, come on, you can hit this guy. What can you at least put the ball in play? It was very, very frustrating, obviously. The Red Sox jumped ahead quickly, 1-0 against Yarbrough in the second. I think was it Narvaez hit an RBI double or a single? Was that how they got their run?
I think so. It was some double or something.
Well, regardless, Carlos Narvaez, that's another story. The Yankees just willingly give Narvaez to the Red Sox, and the guy's been a revelation for them this year. He's just been an on-base hitting machine. He's been killing the Yankees so far this season. So right now the Yankees look like idiots for giving him up. So it's not been pretty to see that. But, it was 1-0 Red Sox going into the top of the ninth inning. And Garrett Crochet, who I think was somewhere around 90 to 93 pitches, came back out for the top of the ninth inning looking for the shutout. Due up that inning was Ben Rice and Aaron Judge to lead off. And, he got Ben Rice for the first out, and then came Aaron Judge. And in one of the most epic at-bats and moments probably of Major League Baseball's 2025 season, Crochet looking to give Judge the golden sombrero and strike him out for the 4th time in the game and for the 7th time overall to go 0-for-7 with 7 strikeouts. He threw a fastball, I think it was a fastball, on the inside part of the plate, and Judge kind of pulled a Juan Soto and shook his head like, nope, not falling.
It was 100 miles an hour, too.
100 miles an hour. He's still throwing gas, but Judge kind of pulling a Juan Soto like, no, I'm not falling for that again. And on the very next pitch, Judge hit an absolute bomb out of Fenway Park, kind of reminiscent of Giancarlo Stanton's home run back in, I think it was 21. That literally cleared the green monster, went well out of Fenway. Probably the longest home run Judge has hit out of Fenway Park or at Fenway Park in his career. And it was a pretty cool moment to see. The Yankees, obviously, that tied the game up, had won. But even as a Yankee fan, I didn't lose my cool. I didn't lose my crap because that only tied the game. You still have to win it at the end of the day. And the Yankees are an absolute joke when they're on the road in extra innings. They just cannot win on the road in extra innings. It's ridiculous. They just do not do that at all. And sure enough, they were only managed to tie the game. And yes, it was a cool moment. But in the end, they didn't finish the job. And that is a major problem that the Yankees have. They do give you moments. The Yankees do provide their fans with moments, but you can only enjoy them for like 5 to 10 minutes because at the end of the day, they do not finish the freaking job. And it's been this way for so many freaking years. I feel like Chris Mad Dog Russo ranting about the Giants all those years ago. But like the Yankees never, ever, ever finish the job. They just do not. They will give you moments, like I said. Judge, nice moment. Got your revenge on Crochet. Amazing home run. But that game is going to be no more now for how it ended because Anthony Volpe made the first out at third base trying to steal with nobody out, which was an absolute asinine move on his part. Granted, it was a replay review. He was initially called safe. The replay review called him out. Being as unbiased as possible, I don't know if I would have overturned him because I don't know if there was enough conclusive evidence. But regardless, he was called out. Not a good play. I would have waited to try and steal third base. If there was one out, then you try and steal third base. You don't do it with nobody out. So a boneheaded base running play by Anthony Volpe, a pitiful at bat by Jason Dominguez, and DJ LeMahieu hit a line drive down the right field line that appeared fair at first glance. And that also had to be critiqued or reviewed by New York. And it was kind of hard to tell. It could have gone either way, honestly. They ultimately ruled it foul, and DJ wound up grounding out. And DJ was pissed, had a little bit to say to the first base umpire. And according to DJ, he didn't really say anything bad. All he said was brutal call, and the umpire immediately ejected him. That's the first ejection in the career of DJ LeMahieu, who never said anything. So I'm like, this guy. So the umpire, in my opinion, was pretty soft for that one. If that's what he actually said, I mean, he might have a different story. But if all DJ said was brutal call and you toss him for that, then you got to grow a set of balls and you got to just deal with it because Major League Baseball players have said way worse than that. So yes, after that inning, I knew the game was over. And who else should walk off the Yankees but none other than their former farm system boy, Carlos Narvaez. And the Yankees dropped the first game of the series 2-1. And with that loss, the Yankees are now 12-26 in extra inning games on the road since the Manfred runner was instituted in Major League Baseball full time. So the Yankees, like I said, they tease you, but they don't please you at the end of the day. And it's been this way for years. And really, this just goes along with a long list of memorable moments that just get squashed because the Yankees just don't win the game in the end. You can look at the Field of Dreams game, for instance. Amazing moments, Yankees, go ahead. And then, then Tim Anderson walks it off, and that game, is more known for Anderson, obviously, because the White Sox won. You look at the home runs that Giancarlo Stanton hit against the Mets at Citi Field in 2021. No one remembers those. They remember Francisco Lindor hitting 3 home runs, and the Mets won that game. Aaron Judge hit the game-tying home run against Class A in the playoffs last year. Giancarlo went back-to-back with him. No one remembers that. The Guardians.
Unless you're a Yankee fan.
I couldn't care less. I don't care about those moments. I care about the end results. If they win, sure, I care about those moments. Those are fun to look at. But that got squashed because of Big Christmas and David Fry. David Fry. And it also goes back to the World Series. Garrett Cole pitching his butt off in the first game and in the fifth game, and those get squashed too because the Yankees just shoot themselves in the foot. So this is the story with the New York Yankees. They will give you good moments, but they don't mean squat in the end because they don't finish the job. And it's so frustrating because it's been this way for so many years. This team just doesn't. This team has fight in them, but they just don't know how to end it. They don't, especially on the road. When you go into extra inning, when the Yankees are in extra innings on the road, they are in deep, deep trouble. They never, ever figure it out on the road. They never win in extra innings on the road, and it pisses me off so much. I've had it. I have freaking had it. This sucks.
Mm.
Ugh.
All right. I love to hear it, Ryan. I love to tell the truth, honestly. Let me say specifically that the Anthony Volpe steal was one of the most boneheaded mistakes that I have seen,
Terrible.
even as a Red Sox fan, because there's no outs. You're the away team. As an away type of team in extra innings, the biggest thing to get is at least the first run to start. What happens? You decide to be greedy and say, okay, I'm at no outs, but I want to get to third base. And you get, I mean, I know that for your sake specifically, you said you thought it could have been a safe type of call. After looking at the second replay, Marcelo Myers specifically had that glove basically right on Volpe's arm as he was trying to basically go head slide into that base. I looked at it and I'm like, wait, no, he's out. I think that DJ call was a little more questionable. And I see a lot of Yankee fans on social media saying, we got robbed. We got rigged. Okay, fine. But how about you look at the Volpe steal beforehand, right? If Volpe doesn't steal that, and that DJ call specifically in which he hits the ball down the line, that scores Volpe, right? Instead, if DJ gets that double, there's still 2 outs because Dominguez got out. So you can't guarantee specifically that DJ was going to score anyway, right? Especially if they only score 1 run specifically. The home team, in this case, from the Red Sox standpoint, just only have to get at least 1 run to tie it and then another one. So I get the frustration for sure. Like, I obviously, if it was my case, it's like, sucks, right? But I also kind of think I'm not saying it's karma per se, but it's like, do you see the boneheaded mistake that your guy had right beforehand? And then you, of course, want to argue it? If that makes sense, Ryan?
Yeah, and actually, I just want to touch on that quickly. It wasn't. Yeah, you're right. It was more the fact that he went in the first place in that scenario than getting thrown out.
Boone had to have something about that too, because it's like
that's what I was. That's what I wanted to touch on. After the game, Boone defended the move, and I nearly lost my mind. You can't defend somebody for making. It's a cardinal sin. They teach you this in Little League. You never make the first or third out at third base. You don't do that. Volpe made a horrible, horrible decision. I don't know if it was on him alone or if somebody gave him the green light. I don't know. I mean, the Yankees can't bunt to save their lives. So, that's another thing that drives me crazy. You're in the major leagues. You better know how to bunt. Like, if you want him at third base so badly, drop a bunt. Don't sacrifice it out for the sake of sacrifice. Don't get too greedy like that. Because now, like you mentioned, I mean, like you said, DJ hit questionable. I don't know. I don't care at this point anymore. But like, it's just that stuff drives me crazy. And the base running for the Yankees was something that that was emphasized severely. Going into this season because it cost them several times in the playoffs. And the Yankees have been a very poor base running team for a number of years now. It was mostly because of labor, but the Yankees don't really have a lot of smart base runners on that team still. There's a lot of guys who get very careless, and we'll talk about that again, when we get to the second game of the series, because there was another stupid base running, and this was way. This was way more egregious, probably, but still, the Volpe, terrible play, and it's honestly been a very rough series for Volpe at Fenway. It's been a nightmare series for him, and you can't do that. It was a stupid play, and for Boone to defend him, it's stupid on his part as well.
So, like you mentioned, right? Bottom of the 10th, Duran grounds out, but honestly, it was basically acted as a bunt because Hamilton was at second, so you just had to get the guy at third with less someone out. And then Marcelo Meyer came up, and I'm like, the kid against the Yankees, the hated rival, which, by the way, he talked about playing the Yankees before the overall series and saying overall it's a dream. He loves playing on the Red Sox already. Just put on the overall Red Sox, the jersey and stuff. But Tim Hill got the best of him. Meyer has just not looked great so far against lefties, and I think that's kind of one thing to kind of take into account. The kids so far have not been great against lefties, but like I said, it's still early, right? It's going to take time basically for them to get going. And the one thing about Meyer and Anthony so far is they've worked great at bats. They haven't been able to chase a lot. They've obviously been having their strikeouts, but Ryan, the Yankees did something right though. Was they did walk Devers. Imagine if they pitched to
That's easy.
Devers
That's
with
easy.
guy at third base. They said, all right, we're gonna have Devers go to first, in which that was the right move for you guys. Even though I wish that wasn't the case, but it was the right move. Meyer strikes out. Devers goes to second. So I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna go the 11th now. But Narvaez said, nope, I have different things to think. And when Narvaez hit it, Ryan, with the way that wind was basically going all day, I thought for a fact it was just going to be like a fly out. But like when he hit it, he had his hand up. And so I'm like, just get on the wall. Get on the wall or drop. And when he hit that's basically over Cody, I think I was going nuts. I'm just like, yes. Like, because a game like that in which Crochet was absolutely spectacular. And then you had the Judge home run. And then you obviously had this. Like, this was a great old-fashioned, like, back and forth type of 2-1 game. Because a lot of the 2-1 games that you basically have, it's like, it's what it is. This was a thrilling game, basically for both sides. I mean, it would have sucked if we lost that game, but the fact that we were able to get that walk-off there and kind of keep this momentum kind of riding throughout the overall week is just kind of made to specifically of now to last night, Ryan, right? If we could be able to get a series win, a second series win against the Yankees to kind of really turn this tide around and kind of get back to 500, well, this was the overall type of game to kind of get going. So let's now get into last night. So last night, Hunter Dobbins was on the mound. His second start specifically after the overall comments, which Ryan, if you want to have the comments for me and we can talk about another topic, we can talk about today. I don't really care. But so the Red Sox get the first run of the game in the bottom of the first, thanks to Narvi. Narvi continues to be a Yankee killer, which I did not have that on my bingo card coming into the season, but hey, I love it. Anthony Volpe decided to become Derek Jeter apparently in that first inning, in which the ball was in the middle. There's 2 outs. Volpe decides to go and try to make a Derek Jeter type of throw, in which, granted, I thought he was going to get Narvi because Narvi does not run fast. But then when the ball was kind of thrown against the line, Paul Goldschmidt, I don't know what happened there. I mean, I think Goldschmidt said after the game that he just had a bad road or something. The ball, I don't remember. But regardless, the Red Sox got the first run. And I'm like, yes, the Red Sox got the first run. They're at home. Like, this is how you want to kind of set the tone early. Then Trevor Story in the bottom of the fourth gets a double. It kind of felt like a single because it was right up the middle, but Story had a really good heads-up play. I think it was it Grisham in center?
Yeah,
like, looking kind of like just lackadaisical in center. And then Story got to second on that. Romy got a double in the fifth. Meyer got a sac fly in the sixth. So it's 4-0 in the bottom of the sixth. However, with the Yankees Red Sox games, they're never easy, right? No matter what. Whether it's, your team up, my team up, you knew it wasn't going to be easy. So they took out Hunter Dobbins, Ryan. And Dobbins was phenomenal last night. His line, 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. Talk about an overall outing in which you say, I don't want to play for the Yankees. I want to give you an FU type of pitching performance. That was it last night. So hell of a job by Hunter. But they brought in Luis Guerrero, and this guy specifically, Ryan, drives me nuts. This guy is basically a righty version, if you remember, of Darwinson Hernandez, a guy that basically can throw hard, but his command is all over the place. And the last thing you need to have, Ryan, happen is to start walking the ballpark. And so the top of the 7th inning comes around. Guerrero comes up, full count to Goldschmidt, which, by the way, Ryan, if you remember that Goldschmidt at bat, he hit a fly ball to right field, and which it looked like for a second it was going to be a homer. It was right basically on that pesky pole line. I feel for you, Ryan, in some of the cases in which a lot of the close calls have not gone your way this series, because it's like, I mean, it's too good to be true from my side. I mean, that's why I feel like today it might just not be our game of freedom. Of course, we're going for you guys, but heck, we already won the series. I can't really complain too much. But Goldschmidt walks, then Jazz walks. Volpe lines out. That was kind of more, I'd say, more of a pop out. Dominguez gets a single. And so I'm like, here we go. Here we go. Here comes the Yankees. They're about to make this a game. And this would have been a detrimental type of loss if they happen to blow this type of game, right? Justin Wilson comes in. First pitch, Wells hits a ball through the Story gap. They cut it to 2. However, they get DJ out to strike out swing. That was kind of an underrated part of the game, Ryan, in which DJ's been hitting the ball well a lot for you guys, especially with guys on base. I'm not talking about prime old DJ, but when old prime DJ, right, when there's guys on base, you'd always have to worry about because he would always put the ball in play. He wasn't a guy specifically that'd be a power type of guy, but in the 9-hole, he's always a guy that you feel like could put the ball in play. But Wilson was able to strike him out. However, they still weren't out of the woods just yet. And here comes specifically, I don't know what happened there type of play, but I'm going to take it to the bank and run with it because if it happened on my side, I would have lost my mind. So Grisham swings at the second pitch. Narvaez makes a heads-up play. Now, obviously, sometimes when Narvaez throws to either first or second, he does have time to kind of just make sure like the runners and stuff are kind of come back. A lot of the times, that's what it is. He threw to second base. And all of a sudden, I see Trevor Story throwing to third. I'm like, what happened? You don't see that a lot of times. It's like, it's more like a pickoff in which the catcher throws to second base and then goes. You don't see that a lot. Most of the time, the runner is basically pretty much already alert for that, especially in that part of the game, how crucial it was, right? However, Jason Dominguez must have been playing video games and basically just had that button on pause because that guy apparently did not think. He thought that Trent Grisham struck out swinging. He didn't see that happen. He was stuck in the mud, and the Red Sox get a massive, massive break to get out of the inning still up 2 runs, in which that was a big part of the game. So that was a hell of a job to get out of it because early on in the inning, it was extremely, it wasn't good per se. De Los Santos for you guys as well. Come after Rodon. Rodon, I thought had a mediocre start. I don't think it was great, kind of on your end, Ryan. I feel you probably feel like he should have pitched a lot better, but he did enough to kind of keep you guys in the game. So I think that you'll kind of take that. The Red Sox offense wasn't really able to kind of string runs at the end of the game either, which kind of made it that's why the game got so hairy at the end. Top of the 8th, right? Grisham lines out. They actually brought Wilson back in for the 8th. Judge strikes out. So they got Judge specifically out, and then Ben Wright strikes out. We go to the bottom of the 8th. Narvaez grounds out. Jaron walks. Story grounds a double play. And then we bring in Greg Weisser. Now, I thought Chapman was going to come in, Ryan, with a 2-run lead, but they've been kind of going back and forth in terms of who's going to be closing games recently. And, the Yankees obviously trying to keep on pushing back, being down 2 runs. Goldschmidt looked like he hit a ball. Honestly, I thought it was going out, but the wind specifically has been crazy the last couple of games at Fenway. He hits the ball. He hits a double. Jazz Chisholm grounds out, so basically that gets Paul Goldschmidt over to third. So less than 2 outs. Volpe comes up. I think it was the first or second pitch that he had. Ground ball to second. Campbell gets to the first. Yankees are now down 1. So for the Red Sox standpoint, they basically, they'll treat it basically kind of as like a stack fly. They're still down 1 run, but Dominguez gets the double. So Dominguez gets the double. So this is, of course, just like Pete, just like hold it on. I'm like, no, they can't but I'm thinking to myself that the worst that can happen is he ties it more likely than not. And Wells got into a real good count against Weisser. He got 3-0 in the count. Then Weisser had a massive pitch back to get a strike. And then Ryan, the next pitch after. Wells, I told you not, that ball, man, I thought it was definitely at least going off the wall. I really do. I mean, kind of the way that he kind of looked, because sometimes if the batter kind of looks and monitors that type of play, he has a good feeling it's going to go over somebody's head or get out. But he hit it, and thankfully the ball just had enough in which it kind of died a little bit at the warning track. Cedon catches it, and the Red Sox hold on for a 4-3 thrilling victory. So the Red Sox now have taken the first 2 series from the Yankees, and they're back to 500 for the first time, and it feels like weeks. So it's been such a weird run so far. They've gone to 500, then they've gone up a couple of games, they went back to 500, then there have been 5 games under 500, now they're back to 500. So 3 straight series wins for the Sox, regardless in terms of what happens today. And we're going to quickly, we don't have to quickly go into this too much because we've really had a lot of this overall series already. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll make this quick because we're already at the 45-minute mark of this
Yeah.
podcast. We still have to talk about a few other things other than Yanks Red Sox. But yep, Red Sox, give them credit. They've come out with a lot more tenacity and a lot more fire than the Yankees have this series. The Yankees have played very sloppy in this series at Fenway. Dominguez's base running was completely stupid. He owned up to it. He said, "I fell asleep. Basically, I didn't know what the count was. No excuses." So I'll give you props for at least not making excuses, but still, Dominguez, don't never do that again. I would have benched him, honestly, after that. I would have been so upset. And it definitely cost the Yankees. There's no doubt about it. That was a terrible play by Dominguez. And some of the at-bats the Yankees have had this series. And look, I'm not taking anything away from Dobbins. He pitched great last night. But some of the at-bats the Yankees took against Dobbins last night was absolutely pathetic. Ben Rice was swinging at the first pitch every time he came to the plate. He had no plate discipline at all. The Yankees were just flailing and flailing. I mean, this is Hunter frickin' Dobbins. This is not Garrett Crochet. He should not be shoving against you. He's an unproven rookie. I mean, he's proving that he loves to pitch against you guys, so you're making him look good, and you're making him look like, he's the next threat to you guys because now he's backing up his trash talk. The Yankees don't seem to care if they're being trash talked to. I mean, they just, or at least they say it bothers them, but they don't show it on the field. So if it's really, they were complaining about the Dodgers trash talking against them. How about you actually make them eat their words and beat them instead of letting them shellac you 18-2? This is the kind of stuff that pisses me off about the Yankees. They, will complain about, whether it's the Astros sign stealing, whether it's the Dodgers, trash talking against you, whether it's, Francisco Lindor, accusing you of whistling and you want to put him back in his place. They just never back themselves up, and that's it.
Hitting for the Cycle is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/CTB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And now back to the show. Corbin Burnes getting Tommy John off for the season, Ryan. Very tough news for the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, horrible. Absolutely terrible. It's been a nightmare season for the Diamondbacks. Their pitching has been absolutely god-awful all season long. They did have a dramatic come-from-behind win last night on June 14th against the Padres. I think they were down 7-4, and they scored 5, I think, to win the game. But, yeah, it's been a nightmare season, and this is the last thing that they needed. Their big prize free agent off-season pitcher who was supposed to be the ace of that staff, supposed to, make that rotation that much stronger because it has struggled mightily all season long. He now has to get Tommy John surgery. I think he might have gotten it already. But regardless, Corbin Burnes is not going to see a major league mound for quite some time. If I had to guess, he might miss all of next season too. May not see Corbin Burnes again until 2027, unfortunately. So it's a big blow to the Diamondbacks. It really is.
Aaron Civale requested a trade out of Milwaukee. Civale was a guy that really was not doing great for the Brewers. He was kind of like a long relay type of guy, even though he shoved against the Red Sox for some other reason, because of course he did. So he got his wish, but Ryan, he got his wish to a team that's even worse than the Brewers. So what do you think about that? He wants the White Sox. Heck, I guess if he wants to get, because he was saying one of the reasons why he requested out was because he felt like he didn't get a massive opportunity. Well, now he gets to go to a team that's worse and get the opportunity. So I guess he can't really complain too much besides just being on a crappy team.
Oh, he doesn't have to go very far. He only has to drive down whatever highway it is that people used to get from Wisconsin to Illinois. So at least he's he didn't have to go very far for this. But Civale, I actually saw him pitch at Yankee Stadium earlier this year, and he got absolutely crushed. What are you looking at right now? Your eyes are lighting up.
Oh, my God. Big NBA trade just went.
All right, well, we'll talk about that later on. I'm sure in another podcast here.
Oh, my God.
Network. You look very surprised.
It's not with my team, but it's a big trade. I'll say that.
All right. Well, regardless, Civale, I saw him, or I thought it was a baseball move. Like, are you?
No, because I would have said if it was specifically after reacting. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
yeah. I saw Civale pitch at Yankee Stadium earlier this year. He got absolutely spanked. That was the
Mhm.
final of the Yankee Brewers series. So Civale apparently was, I think, was being used more as a reliever this year rather than a starter. And I think he wanted to be a starter more. So he just wanted out, and the Brewers granted his wish. Granted, this is not the worst case scenario. He could have been traded to Colorado, and that would have been even worse. So he can look at it that way. So Civale to the White Sox. He got his wish. That's really all I can say. I mean, Civale's not really a major name in Major League Baseball. No offense, Aaron, but he should maybe. I mean, he's a veteran though. He could help a very young White Sox rotation
Mhm.
with experience. And the White Sox, even though they stink, you can see some of these guys have a little bit of promise.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that guy that you got, one of the guys that they got in the Garrett Crochet trade,
Here's my draw.
my
Yep.
draw, he looks pretty good.
And Teal. Yep.
Yeah, so the White Sox, hopefully this group of players actually blossoms compared to previous groups of players that
Mhm.
failed miserably. So
Right. All right. I actually will break the trade for you, by the way, at the end. So I will obviously what I just reacted to my phone. I will react to the end. I know it's not baseball related, but if there's any big news specifically around him for the cycle, and I see it, I'm gonna break it down anyway. So as Ryan's probably taking a look right now as what I just saw, I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm gonna break it down for you guys at the end for any sports fans that are out there because yeah, it was something I did not expect on a Father's Day at 11:14 a.m. But Shams had other plans. All right, who's hot? Who is not? Ryan. Now, Ryan, we're gonna now make a little wrinkle for the remainder of the season. So not only we're gonna do who is hot for players, but now we're gonna do it for teams. So for instance, right? We talked about, of course, the Rockies being who's not. We obviously know that the Rockies every single week are a horrific team, right? So it can't be specifically the same exact team every single week. So we're going to have to make it kind of in a way where, it's going to have to just be somebody new and just going to have to take it there. So, but starting with who is hot and who is not. Ryan, my who is hot, I'm going to give a shout out to Carlos Narvaez from the Red
yeah, I
Sox.
knew that was coming.
Narvi has just been absolute a godsend for this team. The Red Sox seem to do really well starting wise with their pitching staff with Carlos Narvaez over Connor Wong. Unfortunately, Connor Wong's in the lineup today. Yeah, so that sucks. But Carlos Narvaez has been absolutely incredible for this baseball team. Just an absolute unexpected type of thing. So Narvaez, let me see. Coming into this game, Narvaez, let's see. He had a 286 average, a 368 OPP, a 465 slug with 833 OPS. You look at the Yankees only played 6 games, right? The Red Sox, he's played 55 games. He's had 53 hits, 30 runs. He's had 15 doubles, 6 homers. But he obviously threw a guy out at in extra innings, and then he had the walk-off this week, and he's been incredible. So I got to give her props for due. Ryan, I'm going to let you say how the who's hot because, as usual, my who is not tends to be a little more of Tom, I think.
All right. So I'm looking around the league right now, trying to see who is most deserving of the who is hot reward. And you know what? I'm going to give it to an old acquaintance of mine with his days with the Yankees, and it looks like he's finally starting to come around slowly but surely. Juan Soto. He's been hitting the ball. He's been hitting the ball much better. He's in his last 15 games. He's hit 346. He's hit 5 home runs, so his power is starting to come back with 11 runs batted in. And he also has a 500 on base percentage in his last 15 games and a 712 slugging percentage. So Soto looks like he's finally starting to come around, finally starting to get out of this first half funk. I don't know if these numbers are going to help him make the All-Star team for the National League this year. He could. I still think people are going to vote for him though because he's Juan Soto, and I think he actually could make the All-Star team because of that. But yeah, I mean Soto overall his numbers aren't anything spectacular. Just 249 average, 13 home runs, 36 runs batted in, 842 OPS. That's pretty respectable. But he's typically higher than that. So it looks like Soto could be finally starting to break out. And if he does, or when he does, which is inevitable, the Mets are really going to be even that much scarier. So Juan Soto's who's hot for me.
Who is not, Ryan? I got mine, and that is a guy that's been typically very consistent. And that is from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Brian Reynolds is my who is not. This is a guy specifically you hear a lot more praise for, but this year it's not been good. 69 games. Reynolds has a 226 average, a 300 OBP, 367 slug with a 667 OPS. He was supposed to be one of their top guys long term for the Pirates, and maybe it's just kind of an off year. But this is not just kind of a short sample size. Brian Reynolds has not been doing well for Pittsburgh. Homers, he only has 8 homers, and it's in June right now. So that is my who's not, Brian Reynolds, because he's a guy specifically that's usually a very, very good player consistently, and he is just not getting it done right now for them.
All right, so my who's not pick this year, or for this week, I should say. Josh Bell of the Washington Nationals. He has been absolutely pitiful this season for the Nationals. Just a 181 batting average with 9 home runs. So he's not necessarily providing much power for them. 25 runs batted in, a 610 OPS. 610. Not pretty. And he's only hitting 157 in his last, and he's 4 for his last 24. So he came back to the Nationals during the offseason. He obviously signed a 1-year deal with them. But Josh Bell has done little to nothing for the Nationals this season. So this has kind of been just a waste of time, really, just a waste of a reunion. So Josh Bell is who's not for me.
All right, now this week we're going to also have the teams. And Ryan, it's actually crazy enough because we also hopefully have some time to break down that crazy trade, by the way. The sports world we were also here on the air. My who's not team, and Ryan, I think I already mentioned you off the air, the Kansas City Royals. The Kansas City Royals are definitely my who is not team. They are 2-8 in their last 10. They got swept by you guys on the homestand. They have not won a single game on their homestand so far this week, the Kansas City Royals, and they've lost 2 games so far to the Oakland A's, and no shot to the A's, but they should be able, if you're a much better team, like the Royals should be, you should be able to at least win 1 or 2 games against the A's, including they got shut out yesterday. So their offense has been absolutely a mess right now. They did bring up Jack Caglione to try to kind of get themselves kind of going here offensively. Salvador Perez is still he's been not doing well for his standards. Bobby Witt's still obviously kind of doing his thing. But man, Ryan, the Royals, a team specifically I expected a lot more out of, is not getting it done right now. So that's my who is not team for the hot. And my who's hot team? Let's go to. I'm trying to think here. Hey, I'm going to give some little props here. How about the Cincinnati Reds for this week? The Cincinnati Reds, yes, Ryan. The Cincinnati Reds are only 36-35, but this week they were 7-3. They just absolutely walloped the really hot Detroit Tigers, who've been really good all year. 11-1 last night. They did lose 11-5 on Friday, but they took 2-3 against the Guardians, a really tough, gritty team at home. And they swept the Arizona Diamondbacks this past weekend. The Diamondbacks team that had a lot of praise kind of coming into the season. So, yeah, those are my 2 teams. Cincinnati Reds are my who is hot team for the week. And then my who is not team for struggling of the week is the Kansas City Royals.
All right. So, for I'll do who's hot team first over the who's not. So, I'll start with that. For who is hot, they are a division rival, but they're not. But they are not you guys. But you guys have been playing well. I'll give you guys a shout out because you've been playing much better. You guys are 7-3 in your last 10. You've won 4 in a row, and this is your 3rd straight series win. But I'm going to give who's hot to the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays have been playing very well. The Blue Jays, they've lost their past 2 games, but they still have been playing very good baseball. They are just coming off a sweep of the St. Louis Cardinals at Busch Stadium, and they are my who's not. The Cardinals have been floundering. The Cardinals have dropped to third place in the NL Central. Still above 500, but just barely 37-34. They're 3-7 in their last 10. Got swept by the Blue Jays in St. Louis. So for me this week, who's hot? Blue Jays. Who's not? Cardinals.
All right. And now, before we conclude the program, we're going to have a quick little special topic here. We're not going to really go much into detail because we're going to be running out of time. But as Ryan was saying, I had a massive shocking face in my mouth throughout the overall program. I'm going to break it down for you guys here. And that is coming from the NBA trade front. So like I said, it's a baseball program, but we got everything we had to get done for baseball. And Ryan, did you happen to see what happened?
I did not actually.
Okay. So the Memphis Grizzlies are trading Desmond Bane. Do you happen to know Desmond Bane from the Grizzlies?
No, not. I'm kind of limited with my NBA knowledge.
Okay, so regardless, Desmond Bane is going to the Orlando Magic. He's one of the Memphis Stars, by the way, for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, and 4 unprotected first-round picks and 1 first-round pick swap.
Damn.
So
good for the Magic.
Yeah, the Magic were a team specifically in which they're not a great offensive shooting team. We were able to beat them in 5 games. And so, yeah. I mean, that's 4 first-round picks. So, heck, I mean, that's crazy. But, heck, we're running out of time. Thank you guys, as always, for watching Hitting for the Cycle. Make sure to follow us on all of our great socials, in which, of course, we have parlay down here, drop below. You guys can follow us on YouTube. You guys also can follow us on our personal socials, where it's down here, down the ticker bar below. Ryan, it was a great show as usual, my friend. Looking forward to next week. And, yeah. We'll see you guys soon.